So we are live.
Good morning, everyone. Today's children are tomorrow's citizen. I welcome all the dignitaries, all the audience watching us live. And I wish you all happy 75th Independence Day. And today we are having something special. We all know that Independence Day is an auspicious day for the entire country, entire nation. And we celebrate it by respecting our nation, hosting the flag. But today we have done something special by our 10th graders of Narayana Group of Schools. And that is they're going to actually make us understand and put light on the situations that why India is called still developing nation. I would like to take an honor to welcome all the dignitaries over the platform here, all the students, parents, and everyone watching us live. Now, I would like to take an honor to invite our first guest today to put light on and to talk about the India and why it is still developing state. And let me call upon the guest for the day, and that is Mrs. Sudha ma'am, the R&D department head of the social department. Sudha ma'am, over to you, please. Sudha ma'am, over to you.
Ma'am, you are on mute, ma'am.
Yeah, you can unmute, ma'am.
Thank you, Shafi sir. Thank you so much. And on behalf of me to everyone, those who are watching, those who are live, those who are not in live also, very, 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 very happy Independence Day. And now, actually, it's a privilege to talk about the independence and the development of the country on this particular day. And really, it's a great honor to a social department and to the group of schools, Why I am saying is, we'll be talking about the development of the country. We'll be talking about the independence of the country. Whenever a thought comes into our mind, we'll be talking that the glory of India is during the Gupta's period, during the Ashoka's period, during the Mauryans period, during that period and this period. Why not today? This question arises in the minds of the students. Whenever there are certain issues, they'll be asking, they have inquisitive minds. These inquisitive minds of Narayana, now they try to find out the answers with the help of the technology, thanks to the technology and technological development. And here comes, is it really a developing nation or else? This question has to be addressed now, and this is the need of the day, which was addressed by these inquisitive minds, that is igniting minds of the day. And let us welcome this particular topic. And actually, if we say that India is still a developing nation, is there any opportunity to discuss such kind of things? Human resources are developed. At the same time, technology has provided us an opportunity to discuss everything on a big dais like this. At the same time, we have the development of agriculture, taking new methods are joining into the new streams. At the same time, industrial sector has become not perfectly self-sufficient, but more than depending on the others. So all these factors, when they are synchronized, we can get an idea. And here are students to discuss each and every aspect in a detailed manner to give us an idea whether India is a complete developed nation or developing nation, or when we are going to do that. And thank you, Shafi sir. Thank you very much. And now I would like to make the students to participate to give a complete idea to the audience regarding the development of the nation.
Thank you so much, Sudha ma'am, for sharing your valuable thoughts, valuable suggestions and ideas that what our 10th graders of Narayana Group of Schools are going to do today. Before that, I would like to take an honor to call upon the head of soft skills department, Mrs. Vedavati ma'am, to kindly address the gathering.
A very happy Independence Day to everyone who's over here. Children, this message is to all of you. In the morning, I was actually watching in the TV the flag hoisting of our Prime Minister, beloved Prime Minister. And he only said one thing that, We are just 25 years short for our centenary celebrations of our independence. I was so happy to hear that. And I was also looking at what a day we have chosen for our students to take part. And students, you're going to witness, all of you are going to witness 100 years of our independence in just another 25 years. And we are talking today about what are the areas and why is that we are still called as a developing nation, right? And I'm sure by the time we touch our centenary celebrations of our independence, we'll sure be called as the much awaited developed country. And I wish you all the very best, students, for today's presentation, and looking forward to hear what is that you're giving to the nation as solutions, and what is that the discussions that happened throughout the preparation time. And definitely we say balavaku brahmavaku, and you're being kids, and I'm sure these developments are going to help our nation, and wish you all the very best. Once again, a happy Independence Day to everyone. Thank you, Shafi.
Thank you so much, Veda ma'am. And not taking too much of time, let us quickly understand what is going to happen today. Today is a special day, 75th Independence Day, and trust me, our 10th graders are going to take you all over through the 75 years of independence, and now they are going to make you all believe and understand various sectors. We have divided today's presentation into various sectors. Let us understand which sector is doing how and good in the past, well, from the past 75 years. We have four sectors today. The first sector is going to be agriculture, then followed by industrial, service, and then human resources. Now, I would like to call upon our anchors for today, and I'll give it over to the anchors, Priya and Manya. Over to you, please. Thank you.
A very, very happy Independence Day to each and everyone present here. I'm Manya Nemodia.
And I'm Pradnya Priya.
From the Newtown branch would be the anchors today for this show. So, well, hey Priya, how are you?
I'm good. What about you, Manya?
I'm fine too. Yesterday I saw this vlog on YouTube in which they were showing these local places in America, and I started comparing the lanes of America and the lanes which were behind my apartment. And surprisingly, there was a vast difference in it. I mean, the living conditions, and even it was very clean compared to my locality. So, do you have any idea why the difference is so huge?
Well, I guess the difference can be because of the development of the respective nations.
Well, how can development be a reason behind it?
You know that countries like America and Japan, they are highly developed, whereas our country, India, is still under the process of development. And we know that India is such a huge country with vast population and religion, so there can be various reasons that why is still India under development.
Well, yes, I guess the development of India, it basically varies between four main sectors, which can be agriculture, industries, service, and human resources.
Correct. And you know that over 70% of the rural households depend upon agriculture, and it contributes about 17% to the total GDP of India. It provides employment to over 60% of our population. Even these industries provide so many benefits to the economy of our country. Like it provides employment generation, production of goods and services, and equal income distribution in the whole economy.
Well, wow, you ought to know about it pretty well. Even the service sector, it provides finance, marketing, transport, insurance for the development of the agricultural sector. It contributes about 60% of the Indian GDP. And even the human capital, it encourages the advancement of the new techniques for production. And this, in turn, results in the increase of the economic development in the shape of an increase in GDP.
Well, wow, these countries and sectors are really so important for the development of our nation. So let's try to understand the role of each sector in detail, and let's take help of our friends who will help us to dive in more detail regarding agriculture.
Very good morning and a happy Independence Day to everyone out there. We are entering into the 75th year of independence, but still our India is being labeled as a developing country and not a developed country. The main reason for this is that the primary sector, which is the backbone of the Indian economy, is not developed. So to discuss its reasons and solutions, today we, the team of agricultural sector, are here to talk on the topic India, a developing country. I would like to introduce my teammates, myself Anu Meghana, Riona, Akash Reddy, Ramya Shri and Sanjana.
Can you tell me what is the reason that India is still developing and what is agricultural sector?
Yes, sure. I'll also tell you about some other topics too. What is development? Is India really a developing country? Why India is still a developing country? Major issues preventing development. What is agricultural sector? Agricultural sector at the time of independence. Why India is still developing in agriculture compared to other countries, and the Green Revolution. First of all, what is development? It is a process that creates growth, progress, positive change, or the addition of physical, economic, environmental, social, and demographic components. Next, we are going to see, is India really a developing country? India is one of the fastest developing countries in the world, but as we are noticing, it is still being labeled as a developing country. The development in our country is less and low when compared to other countries. People do not focus on the things that needs to be managed properly to make our country grow. Yes, India is a developing country, but there are a lot of issues and reasons behind the lack of development criteria of India. Every individual in our country has to have the guts in order to improve ourselves, and also that improvement helps our country to grow as well. Talking about individual here means that every political party and every influencer has to stand for the right thing to make our country grow. Next, we are going to see what are the major issues preventing development. Lack of infrastructure, illiteracy, social customs, and exposure. Lack of infrastructure means that poor standard of living or the insufficient provision of developmental resources. Lack of knowledge in a particular technology or illiteracy is also a major cause. Lack of transmission of social customs is also an issue. Lack of exposure towards anything in the society is also a big hurdle towards development. Next, we are going to know about agricultural sector. What is agricultural sector? Agricultural sector is one of the most important sector of the Indian economy. It accounts for almost 18% of India's GDP and provides employment for 50% of the countries. Agricultural sector is changing its environments of the population due to liberalization and globalization. About 75% of people living in rural areas are still dependent on agriculture, and about 43% of India's geographical area is used up for agricultural activity. Next, we are going to see how was agriculture at the time of independence. At the time of independence, India inherited a semi-feudal agrarian structure with tenure arrangements. Next is Zamindari system. This act was mainly practiced in Bengal, and as per this system, the majority of the profits went to the landowners, that is Zamindars. Thus, the agricultural land was gradually impoverished because it tended towards exploitation. Next, we are going to know why India is still developing in agriculture compared to other countries. Firstly, India has a very low per capita income compared to other countries. India also has a massive population growth, which is also a big hurdle towards development. India also lacks cold storage for food staple or storage of yield varieties. Next, we are going to know about the Green Revolution. A large increase in the crop production in the developing countries achieved by the use of artificial pesticides or high-yielding crop varieties is known as Green Revolution. It was first initiated in India in 1960s to increase the food production and feed millions of malnourished people throughout the nation. This graph shows the success in crops like rice, wheat, pulses, and other cereals in the Green Revolution. Next, we are going to know about the state of Punjab. We all know that the state of Punjab is very successful in Green Revolution, and it has been closely associated with this, which saw the development of high-yielding varieties of crops like rice, wheat, etc., and earned the distinction of being the breadbasket of India. So, Riona, can you tell me something about why India is not developing in agriculture and the solutions for that?
Yeah, sure, why not? So, before starting with my topic, I would like to analyze the reason why India is still not developed in agriculture, in spite that most of its population is engaged in this field. As we all know, India is the most primitive civilization, and most probably we have started the practice of agriculture thousands of years ago. But the problem is that we are still following the same primitive methods that we used so many years ago. This is why India is lagging behind in the field of agriculture. So, why is India not developed in agriculture? Despite having fertile land and cultivable climate, the first reason is that India's per hectare yield is low. Indian farmers grow many crops, but the production of crops per hectare is very low due to poor cultivation methods. As the data suggests, India is a lot behind on the world average. The second reason is that Indian farmers are still dependent on rain. Smart irrigation methods can be used which are more productive. The third reason is that Indian farmers still use old methods of production, but the developed countries make use of their modern inputs in the field of agriculture. Fourth reason is natural calamities. These are not in hands of Indian farmers, but the condition can be improved with the help of technology. So, by seeing all these points, we can conclude that the agricultural sector in India is not able to contribute as much as other sectors do in the country's GDP. So, what is the solution then? There are some scientific methods which can be used to improve agriculture. Some of these were also used in the Green Revolution. So, here are the solutions. The first solution is called use of high yielding variety seeds. The use of HYB seeds means the use of good quality seeds. The better the quality of seeds, the better the production of crops. Second is use of organic fertilizers. This does not harm land, thus the land can be used for more years. Third is use of modern machineries and technologies in the field of agriculture. Fourth is weather forecasting. Indian farmers should be aware of the weather and accordingly and strategically plan for the sowing of their fields. Fifth are the different agricultural methods which I am going to discuss in a few minutes. But before that, let us discuss the disadvantages of these methods. The first is that these methods are expensive, and secondly, they reduce employment opportunities for the landless laborers. So here are the different agricultural methods. The first method is called multiple cropping. In this method, more than two crops are sown on the same piece of land in one growing season instead of just growing one crop. This reduces the chances of failure and increases productivity. Some of the similar methods are intercropping, rotations, agroforestry, and green manuring. The next method of agriculture is called hydroponics. In this method, soil is not used. Instead, the water solution itself provides nutrients required by the crops. So, the next methods of agriculture are sprinkler and drip irrigation methods. Sprinkler irrigation method allows the water to run under high pressure with the help of a pump, whereas the drip irrigation method allows the water to slowly drip through the holes of the pipe directly to the roots of the plants. Now, a question arises. Why do we use these scientific methods in the field of agriculture? The answer is simple. Because of the beneficial advantages, we use these methods. Some of the advantages of these methods are that it helps conserve water. It follows smart irrigation methods. Second is that it helps save space. As we all know, in India, the land is divided among the earth, and thus the size of land decreases. But these methods are still productive for small sized lands. Third is that it provides a huge and a healthy variety of yield. Fourth is that the temperature and climate can be altered, and thus the crop rate can also be altered. So, marching forward, what can be said is that if these scientific methods used in the field of agriculture in India can increase the per hectare yield, this would in turn increase the profitability of the farmers and would encourage them to adopt these new methods. It also encourages self reliance for the farmers. Fourth, and the most important point is that it helps increase export. Increase in exports from the agricultural sector can help agricultural sector contribute in the country's GDP. Before, the population of India was so high that the Indian farmers were not able to suffice the needs of Indian population itself. But now, by using these methods, which provides them a huge and healthy variety of yield, export is made possible. Thus, an overall increase from the agricultural sector can help develop it. Not only this, it can also result in India becoming a fully developed country. So now, Akash, I was curious about the topic chemical fertilizers and crop insurances. So, can you be telling something about it?
Why not, Riona? Firstly, I would like to discuss about the advantages of the chemical fertilizers. So the first advantage is more production. Farmers can grow more production by the usage of chemical fertilizers in spite of using the natural manures in their farmlands. Next one is resistance. If we spray the chemical fertilizers on the plants, then no insect can attack on that plant, and by that there will be no loss in the production due to the insect attack. Next one is more production on the less land. Farmers can grow more production on the less land by the sufficient usage of chemicals like urea, ammonia, anhydrous ammonia, etc. For instance, if a farmer has an acre of land, then in that acre of land, he can approximately produce 1.5 acre of production by the usage of sufficient chemical fertilizers. Next one is pest-free crops. By spraying the pesticides, then we can give the assurance for the crop that there will be no insect attack and there will be no loss in the production due to the insect attack. Hence, these are all the advantages of the chemical fertilizers. Now you may get doubt that how is this fertilizer topic related to the development of our country? Yes, absolutely it's related, because by the usage of more and more chemical fertilizers, we can obtain more and more production. If we get more and more production, then we may get good for the cheaper price. If we get the good for the cheaper price, then everyone in our country can afford the prices of that good, and by taking them, they can survive for several days. Development, it not only means that increasing one's country's GDP, but it also means that ensuring the basic facilities for a common citizen to like food to survive. Without food, there will be no human being surviving on this earth. So the agriculture sector provides the basic facility for a common citizen to survive on this earth. As we all know, a coin is a two-headed. Similarly, every advantage has its own disadvantage. Now let us look into the disadvantages of the chemical fertilizers. First one is more expensive. Chemical fertilizers are more expensive as they are a mixture of many chemicals. So a normal or a poor farmer cannot afford the prices of that chemical fertilizers and insecticides. Next one is toxic in nature. As fertilizers are made up of mixture of many chemicals, they are very toxic in nature. So farmers should take more intensive care while spraying them. Next one is pH value reduces below 5.6. Because of more usage of chemical fertilizers day by day, the fertility of the soil reduces and the pH value of the soil disturbs. Nowadays, farmers are using very much of chemical fertilizers in order to gain good production. But if we use the chemical fertilizers in this way, then after 30 to 40 years, land will be with no use. So in that circumstances, we won't be produce any crop. Next one is effect on crop. If we spray more and more chemical fertilizers on the crop, then definitely there will be the effect of chemical fertilizers on the crop. If we spray more and more, then the crop becomes more toxic in nature. In that case, it is very harmful to consume that food. For instance, if we consider an example, recently in Eluru, a misty disease has come up due to the overusage of chemical fertilizers. This disease is caused due to the percentage of nickel is more in the crops which are grown in Eluru, and this resulted in the 2 to 4 people's death and about 600 people's illness. Hence, these are all the disadvantages of the chemical fertilizers. So farmers are advised to use the natural manures in spite of using the chemical fertilizers in their farmlands. Next, coming to the crop insurances. Crop insurance is purchased by the agricultural producers and subsidized by the federal government to protect against the losses of their crops due to the natural disaster like hail, drought, and floods, or the loss of revenue due to the declines in the prices of agricultural commodities. The two general crop insurance include crop yield insurance and the crop revenue insurance. According to a survey which is conducted in 2019, says that the crop insurance policies has covered almost 380 million acres of land. So it is very necessary for farmers to buy the crop insurances. In our country, we have many crop insurances. Now let us see the most popular insurances in our country. First one is NAIS, National Agriculture Insurance Scheme. Next one is MNAIS, Modified National Agriculture Insurance Scheme. WBCIS, Weather-Based Crop Insurance Scheme. CPIS, Coconut Palm Insurance Scheme. So farmers are advised to buy the crop insurances in spite of losing the whole production. Well, Ramya, I'm very eager to know about the major food crops and cash crops in our India, and as well as about the organic and inorganic farming. Will you please let me about them?
Yeah, sure, Akash. I'll let you know all of them in detail. India is a country of agriculture. We have fertile lands and breezy sparkling rivers in our country. The main farming includes two types. They are food crops and cash crops. Food crops in India are rice, wheat, millets, pulses, etc. And cash crops include tobacco, cotton, jute, etc. The percentage of food crops in total crop is around 65%, and the percentage of cash crop cultivation accounts around 35%. The farmers around the world follow two types of farming techniques. They are organic farming and inorganic farming. Now, before entering into the topic, I want to picturize a true story in front of you instead of a theoretical explanation. During December 2020, the whole world turned its focus on the town Eluru. There was a spread of idiopathic disease from the people. The reason is underground water contamination with pesticides used by the farmers in their fields. Now let's dig deeper into the scenes of fields and yields. Now I am going to tell you an interesting topic known as inorganic farming. Inorganic farming is also known as the conventional farming. The Green Revolution in 1970s ushered in an era of rapid agricultural production. The catalytic agents for the revolution were chemical fertilizers. India was gravely short of food grains at that time, with massive inputs of chemical fertilizers and water, and high crop yields were achieved. The Green Revolution may save the day, but it was far from the safeguarding the future. Damaged soils, expensive farming, water pollutive, ecologically lethal farming practices do no good to public health. Conventional farming technique. Use of synthetic fertilizers. Farmers use chemical pesticides, weedicides, fertilizers to achieve high qualitative yield. Now I am going to tell you about genetically modified seeds. Plants and seeds are genetically engineered toward pest and drought conditions to get long shelf life food. Conventionally produced food is less expensive than organic foods. There are two sides for every coin. Similarly, conventional farming has many adverse effects. Biological ecosystem, soil quality is diminished, greenhouse gas emission and soil erosion is high. Now I am going to tell you about organic farming. Organic farming is a vital requisite to enhance fair nutritional value, health, soil ecology and produce a hazardless human race. The various practices in organic farming are crop rotation, green manures and animal manures, and integrated pest management. Now let's know all about them in detail. Crop rotation. The sequence of cultivating two dissimilar types of crops, this improvises the needs of one another. Green manures and animal manures, compost, plant soil are used in fields to maintain organic matter of the soil. Animal manures like dried cow dung is a good carbon supplement. Integrated pest management. Plant pests can be controlled by using biopesticides, plant products like canola oil, baking soda, etc. Organic farming encourages soil biodiversity, reduces soil erosion and global warming. The bioaccumulation problem also will be prevented. Organic farming also has some limitations like less production with high expenditure. This is in one go we can visualize the scenario of organic and inorganic farming by this picture. India ranks 9th place in organic farming, and there are statistics of organic farming from 2016 to 2020 in India. However, there are certain common criteria like soil health, public safety to be focused by farmers. In my opinion, the good practices of both the farming procedures may be adapted within the limitations to attain beneficial production. Now let's discuss technology in agriculture. Apart from fertilizers used, mechanical technology is also used in agriculture. Harrows, tillers, ploughers, harvesters, sprayers are the developments apart from tractor. Hybrid seeds, resistant varieties of saplings, animals are the agricultural achievements. They are highly resistant to disease-causing organisms and less irrigation conditions. Now, some of the future proposals in technology include sophisticated equipments like robots, temperature moistures, GPS technology, etc. India has revolutionized draft wheat seed variety during this green revolution. Sanjana, I'm so curious some of the topics like storage and government schemes and why are educated people not at all interested in agriculture. Would you please tell all of them in detail?
Yes, Ramya, sure. Till now, my team haven't telling me about what is agriculture, how important is it in India, and few techniques the farmers can use to increase their productivity. Now let's see how to store that productivity. Post-harvest loses about 10% of food grains due to unscientific storage, insects, rodents, and etc. There are two ways of storing the grains. One is granaries and another one is silos. But there are also small farmers in India who cannot sustain such ways. So they can practice devang storage, which is nothing but the first layer is filled with the husk and the gunny bags are kept on it. Later, organic waste are sprayed and covered with a plastic sheet. Another one is earthenware pots. In this method, a large pot made with mud is buried in the soil and the grains are stored in it. Now let's talk about farmers' dependence on monsoons. The farmers which grow crops like cotton, rice, pulses and soya bean needs much water and they depend upon monsoon. So the alternative for this problem is rainwater harvesting. These are pits where they should be digged near the fields. This maintains good underground water level. Self-irrigation. Self-irrigation is nothing but creating own water tanks near the fields. Check dams means a small barrier built across the direction of water flow. These methods will help in preventing the water crisis. We believe that agriculture is an important sector in India because it directly affects the GDP. But why are people not taking up this field? So now let's see why are they not interested in agriculture. The people are not interested in this field because of lack of job opportunities and scholarships. But if the government provides these facilities and create awareness among the people, they will show interest in this field. If educated people take up this field, they will be able to create many things and help the farmers how to use them. Now let's see what are the government initiatives in agriculture of India. The National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, Mission Organic Value Chain Development for Northeastern Region, INAM, Kisan Credit Card, Soil Health Card, PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana, and PM Kusum. These are some initiatives which are brought up by the government in India. Me and my team created this presentation in order to educate everyone and help the farmers. Hope you like our presentation. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan.
Well, you know, Priya, agriculture, it is very important. It provides us food. But from where do we get these useful goods for our daily life? Ever wondered?
Correct. Well, maybe the useful goods are produced from the factories and industries, but I actually never gave a proper thought about it.
Well, okay, so let's invite some of our companions who can give us an idea about the industrial sector.
Good morning, one and all present here. I am Kumaluya of class 10 from Narayana Techno School, MG Road branch. As we all know, industries and agriculture are interdependent. The source of raw materials for industries comes from agriculture. Similarly, the tools required for agriculture are produced in our industries. So me and my team is here to talk about industrial sector.
Hey Komal, could you give us a briefing about the industrial sector?
Sure. Industrial sector or secondary sector is one of the three sectors that make up a country's economy. It is one that makes finished products, which can then be utilized, that is construction and manufacturing industry.
Okay, now this is just out of curiosity, but I would like to know who was the pioneer of our Indian industry. So could you help me with that?
The first person who started industry in India was Jamshedji Nussaranji Tata. He founded what would later become Tata Group of companies. Jamshedji Tata is regarded as the legendary father of Indian industry. He was so influential in the world of industry that Jawaharlal Nehru referred him as a one-man planning commission.
Well, thanks for the information. But I want to know what was the first industry set up in India. So could you tell me about that?
So here we begin with the introduction of industries in India. The first industry was cotton textile industry. The first cotton mill in India was established in 1818 at Fort Gloucester near Kolkata, but it was a commercial failure. The second mill was established by KG Dabur in 1854 and was named Bombay Spinning and Weaving Company. The second industry was jute mill industry. The Auckland Mill was the first jute mill established in India. The mill, established in 1855 by British entrepreneur George Auckland and Bengali financier Babu Paisumbar Sen and Mishra. Then the third industry came, wool and textile industry. First woolen textile mill was set up at Kanpur in 1876. Another mill was started at Dhariwal in 1881. Subsequently, new mills were started at Mumbai in 1882 and at Bangalore in 1886. But the growth of industry was not very encouraging until the Second World War, which gave a boost up to the industry.
Wow, that was great to know from you, Komal. Now, as we are getting to know more about the industrial sector, I think it's essential to understand its significance as well. So could you proceed regarding the same?
So now we are going to discuss about importance of industrial sector. First comes rapid growth of income. The first and the foremost argument in favor of industrialization is that it can provide a base for rapid growth of income. It is because of the fact that productivity rates are higher in industry than in agriculture. Industries mainly depends on men's efforts, while agriculture is restricted by the limiting factor of nature. It is also seen that the industrialized nations have high per capita income. Second comes employment. With the increasing population, agriculture is unable to provide for employment. Hence, it is very important to set up industries to absorb this surplus labor. Hence, industries can solve the problem of unemployment. Then comes exploitation of resources. Industries are capable of utilizing all the resources present in the economy. They can even make use of scraps and waste materials. Agriculture cannot make use of all the resources. Then comes foreign exchange. India cannot earn adequate foreign exchange from the exports of its primary products. It is because of the fact that demand for such products is very less in other countries. Industrial exports need to be added to its primary products. Then comes development of agriculture. The requirement of agriculture are met by the industries in large. Agriculture requires improved farm machinery, chemical fertilization, pesticides. It also requires storage and transport facilities. All these are adequately provided by our own industry. Then comes balanced development. Our economy is unbalanced. Our greater dependence on agriculture has made us poor. With the industrialization in the economy, this disparity can be removed. If agriculture is the backbone of economy, then industry is the energy. Then comes self-sustained growth. The rapid development of capital goods of industries are promote the growth of agriculture, transport, and communication. It also enables the country to produce a variety of consumer goods in large quantity and at low cost. It also eliminates our dependence on other countries for the supply of essential goods. Last comes nation security. Dependence on foreign countries for defense goods is always a risky affair. We do not have good relations with our neighboring countries, especially with Pakistan and China. In short, we may say that it is only through rapid industrialization that the Indian economy can fight against widespread poverty and backwardness.
Okay, now we know that gross domestic product is a very important criterion to determine the development of any country. So Komal, can you tell us what is the contribution of industrial sector to Indian GDP?
Well, it was about 27%. And with the GDP of rupees 46.44 lakh crore, the industrial sector contributes 25.92%. And did you know in 2017, GDP of industrial sector was $560.97 billion and it ranks 6th in the world. I hope, Jennifer, you got your answers.
Yes, Komal, thanks a lot.
So there has been a rapid increase in the number of industries in India when we compared with 1947 to today, that's 2021. There were only 13 major industries in 1947. Few of them were Ahmedabad Municipal Transport Service, Atul Company, Bombay Oil Industries, etc. And when we see for 2021, there are more than 10 lakh of industries present in India. They are automobile industries, cotton textile industry, banking industry, etc. Now I would like to call Venya to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Komal. A very good morning to everyone. My name is Venya Singh and I am from Narayana Educational School, Sector 87 branch, Faridabad.
Well, that was a great introduction to the industries of India. But Venya, may I know what are the types of industries that are found in India?
Sure. From after the independence till today, that is from 1947 till 2021, there have been many changes in the types of industries in India. Today, we are mainly going to discuss about 3 types of industries: the textile industries, iron and steel industries, and cement industries. Let's begin with the textile industries. In April 1951, there were around 378 cotton mills in India. In 2010 to 2011, there were 80 jute mills, and in September 2013, there were 1900 cotton textile mills. Currently, there are about 1719 textile mills in the country, which provides an employment to over 15 million workers. India's share of jute production had a fall from 60% to 55% in 1953 to 1954, that is after the Second World War. The proportions of exports of jute manufacture in total exports of India also declined from 89% to 83%. Now, the textile industries have increased from 19.31% in 1950 to 51 to 58.96% in 1980 to 81 to 87.95% in 1990 to 91 and 94.63% in 2003 to 2004. The Indian textile industries contributed 2.3% to the GDP of India, 13% to the export earnings, and 12% to the industrial production. It has 2% share in GDP and shares 15% of the gross export income during 2017 to 2018. Now let's move on to the next type of industry, that is iron and steel industry. Globally, India was the one and only country to post a positive overall growth in the production of crude steel at 1.01% from January to March in 2009. The steel sector in India grew by 5.3% in May 2009. India produced 106.5 million tons steel in 2018. Between April 2020 and February 2021, India's cumulative production of steel was 85.6 million tons and cumulative production of crude steel stood at 92.78 million tons. In April 2021, India's finished steel consumption stood at 6.78 million tons. The India's current steel producing capacity is of 140 million tons, and the figure is anticipated to rise to 300 million tons by 2030 to 2031. Lastly, we have cement industries. Cement production reached 329 million tons in 2020 and accounted for over 8% of the global installed capacity. In 2021, it had reduced to 262 million tons and accounts for over 7% of the global installed capacity. Cement production is expected to reach to 550 to 600 million tons per annum by 2025. India has 10 large big cement plants governed by different state governments, 115 big cement plants and 300 small cement plants. Now, I would like to invite my friend Jennifer to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Venya. The importance of technology in industries cannot be downplayed in any way, since technology promotes discoveries and successful development relies on greater discoveries. Good morning to everyone. I'm Jennifer from VIJ O'Connelly branch, and I'm going to talk about technology in our Indian industries. So I would like to begin by talking about India's past. The Indian industries had a great presence in the global market before the advent of Britishers. In fact, did you know that in 1750s, India is documented to have dominated the world's cotton industry? The most famous products from India at that time were cotton and silk textiles, artistic wear, and handicrafts. The reason why we were so favored is because we had a high quality of foods and traditional industries. So from this, we can say that we were quite technologically developed for that time being. Then, as we know, the British entered India. Now, the British were exploitive. They implemented various policies, imposed different taxes, and all of this finally led to deindustrialization of India. Also, the Indian promoters mainly focused on favoring the British manufacturers instead of looking for new technologies. The most telling example which I can give you is the persistence of using new spindle, even though ring spindle was introduced to the market long way back. Now, we have already mentioned that during the Second World War, Indian industries got a boost. But can we say the same thing about technologies used? Not exactly. Well, let me explain it to you. During the Second World War, the Indian industries were under immense pressure to provide war materials. So, many people forgot to pay attention to the machineries. And thus, we saw a great decline in the efficiency of our machineries during Second World War. Thus, during the 200 years of British rule, ultimately retarded the industrial development of our country in its early period. Now, what happened after independence? Well, after independence, the condition of our industries was completely disrupted. One hand, we had short supply of technology and educated workers, and on the other, the lack of capital. We have to be thankful to our Indian leaders because they realized the importance of making India self-reliant in terms of science and technology, and they have implemented various policies supporting that. So over the past 7 decades, India has built satellites, it has sent probes to the moon and Mars, and demonstrated firepower in the form of range of missiles. Undoubtedly, these are all fabulous achievements of our Indian technologists. However, there are still many small-scale industries and large-scale industries like iron industry, automobile industry, and many more which are still technologically backward. Now, I would like to invite Nikita to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Jennifer. A very good morning to everyone. This is Nikita from ATP NCS branch, and now I will be discussing about India's growth story. Talking about India's growth story, the first thing which we all have to know is about economic growth. If you can see, we have a graph representing the growth rate in various years, mainly the period of 1980 to 1990. Many economists considered this period as the revival of industrial growth period because the most important observation that was made is increase in the productivity. Hence, this period was called as revival of industrial growth period. This period witnessed an industrial growth rate of 6% during the 6th plan and 8.5% during the 7th plan. Well, the main reason behind this is the effect of policies. As we all know, India adopted new industrial policy in the year 1956, which was closely related to trade policy. Technically, this strategy is called as import substitution. This policy is mainly aimed at replacing or substituting imports with a domestic production. For example, instead of importing vehicles made in a foreign country, Indian industries would be encouraged to produce them in India itself. In this way, our exports increased, which in turn resulted in the higher and the faster growth rates during the period of 1980 to 1990. Moving on, the next graph represents the period of 2005 to 15. Post 2011. It fell from 8.2% in 2010 to 11 to negative 0.1% in 2013 to 14. Well, there were several reasons behind this, but some of the reasons are weak demands for export from developed Western countries due to global financial crisis, the slowdown in the domestic demand, high interest in India maintained by the RBI due to persistently high inflations. In this way, the growth rate declined post 2011. Next, we have industrial revolutions. We mainly have four industrial revolutions, that is first industrial revolution, second, third, and the fourth industrial revolutions respectively. Now, let's begin with the first industrial revolution. First industrial revolution, that is in the 18th century, used water and steam power to mechanize the reproduction. Next comes the second industrial revolution. Second industrial revolution began in the 19th century and used electric power to create the mass production. Second industrial revolution was mainly known for the rapid advancement of mass production and transportation made life a lot easier and more faster. Then comes the third industrial revolution. Third industrial revolution began in the late 1900s and wanted to automate the production through partial usage of computers and programmable controls. Hence, this was also called as digital revolution. Now comes the fourth industrial revolution, which we are currently implementing, is characterized by application of information technology, that is IT, communication, and many more. So there were some negative effects resulted by these industrial revolutions. Some of them are the discovery of steam power and its practices from the year 1815 created a threat to Indian textile industry. Industrial revolutions also brought severe consequences to the society, where Indian farmers were forced to grow cash crops in the place of food crops, which resulted in deadly famines in India. As we are done with the industrial revolutions, now let's move on to exports of India. The first main export of India is biochemicals. Manufacturing biochemicals is a national-wide business in India. The sector contributes hugely to the national economy and is an essential part of it. Secondly, we have petroleum products. Although our country is hugely dependent on oil imports, our country also exports oil-based products such as fuel oil, sulfur gas oil, which has supported the economy at the large extent. Next, we have precious stones. India consumes around 20% of global gold production and 75% of amount that goes into making jewelry. Around 30% of Indian jewelry gets exported to the United States alone. This tells us that India is a great exporter of precious stones. Next, we have automobiles. From 2008 to 13, the Indian automobile sector has seen a rise of 17%, which is one of the fastest economic growth that has ever taken place in the industrial sector. Being one of the largest steel producer in the world, India invests largely on the automobile sector and its exports. Lastly, we have machinery. There has been a 10.5% increase in the export of heavy machinery from India. These includes cars, pumps, heavy machines, building construction tools, agriculture equipment, and so on. Till now, we have discussed about exports. Now, let's discuss about some imports of India. The first one is oil. India nearly imports 144.3 million tons of crude oil from countries like Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Iran, and Iraq. In spite of being the great exporter of precious stones, India also imports gold and silver, gems like pearls, semi-precious stones, which accounts about 12% of total imports. Next, we have electronic equipment. The import of electronic goods, including smartphones, in the country grew from 2.85 billion to 4.38 billion. India mainly import electronic equipment and organic chemicals from the countries like China.
So much for such a great information, Nikita. But I have a few doubts related to imports and exports. May I?
Yeah, sure.
My first question is, how imports and exports help India in developing its economy?
Well, exporting and importing grow national economies and expands the global market. So oftentimes imported products provide a better price or more choices to the consumers, which helps in increasing the standard of living. In these ways, imports and exports help India in becoming a fully developed nation.
Okay, my next question is, why countries like India want to be net exporters rather than net importers?
Well, we'll figure this question out by knowing two terms. One is trade surplus and trade deficit. Trade surplus is an economical environment which is created when a country imports less and exports more. Whereas trade deficit is an economical environment which is created when a country imports more and exports less. So when a country has a trade deficit, it must borrow money from the other countries to pay for the extra imports. So not only India, every country wants to be a net exporter rather than being a net importer.
Oh, that's great. My last question is, why is the Indian export lower than its import?
Well, that's simple. We all know that India is an agriculture-based country. So what does an agriculture-based country export? That is nothing but the agriculture goods. We mainly import technology, machinery, etc. because they are cheaper and are of a good quality. So to increase our exports, our Prime Minister started to build a program called Make in India. Hope you got your answers, Svanya.
Yes, thank you so much.
But even I have a doubt related to the term GDP. May I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the term GDP, but can you take us deeper into the contribution of industrial sector to the GDP?
Sure. GDP, that is gross domestic product. After independence, the industrial sector of India was in a very miserable condition. It only contributed about 11.8% to the national GDP. During 1980 to 1990, the GDP was 5.9%, which accelerated to 6.7% during 1992 to 1996. But it again came down to 5.8% during 1997 to 1999. In 2019 to 2020, the GDP was rupees 145.69 trillions, which reduced by 7.3% to rupees 135.13 trillion in 2020 to 2021. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite my friend Komal to discuss about 5-year plan.
Thank you, Enya. So now we'll discuss about 5-year plan. Firstly, we'll understand what does it mean. An economic plan which allocates the resources of nation to fulfill the general and specified goals as planned by the government for a specified period. In India, these plans are made for 5 years and hence they are known as 5-year plans. Now we'll see the graph showing the growth rate of industrial sector in various 5-year plans. As you can see that the growth of industrial sector was the least at the time of annual plan in the year 1966 to 69. The reason of this least growth was a severe drought condition during the 1966 to 68, because of which there was a great setback to the economic and industrial development of the nation. Over and above severe shortfalls in the plant production during the third plan, which forced the government of India to postpone the formulation and implementation of the 4th 5-year plan to adopt annual plans. Also, you can see that the highest growth of industrial sector was at the time of 7th 5-year plan in the year 1985 to 90. With an outlay of rupees 30,000 crore for the industrial sector, it re-emphasized the earlier objective of rapid economic growth with social justice. The main features of the industrial development during the 7th plan were adequate supply of consumer articles for mass consumption at reasonable price, development of industries with large domestic market and also export potential to emerge as world leaders in them, and integrated development of industries in general to achieve self-reliance and high employment generation. The average growth rate of industry in 7th plan was 8.6% per annum as against the target of 8% per annum. This growth was due to a number of factors. First, improve in performance of infrastructure. Second, higher import of capital goods. Third, better utilization of capacities. Fourth, import of technology. Last, broad branding of products. Now I would like to call Jennifer to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Komal. Till now, we have talked about the past and present of our industries. Then what is our way forward? Well, technology has advanced a lot in the last few decades. There have been numerous groundbreaking advancements that have revolutionized the way things are done. Now, internet is an important part of any industry. So in the fourth industrial revolution, IoT, that is Internet of Things, image recognition, artificial intelligence, that is AI, computer software, and others have a big role to play in different industrial sectors. I would like to invite Raghav to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now let us discuss about industries not in India. India is the third largest importer of crude petroleum. It depends on crude imports for 84% of its oil requirement. In the first 3 months of 2021, OPEC share of India's crude imports fell to a 2-decade low of 72% from the previous level of around 80%. Apart from crude petroleum, India imports a large variety of volume finished petroleum products such as LPG, LNG, petcoke and fuel oil. India's petroleum products import bill was $12.4 billion in 2021, down from $16 to $17 billion in the previous 2 financial years. But despite the cheaper bill, import volume has remained at around 62 million tons now. Next, we come to import based on raw materials. India imports 160 tons of gold worth $8.4 billion in March 2021. India is the second largest consumer of gold after China and one of the largest importers of gold. It imports 800 to 900 tons of gold annually. Coal. Despite having the world's fourth largest coal reserves and being the second largest producer of mineral fuel, India is heavily dependent on imported coal. The power sector is India's biggest coal consumer. Other sectors depend on coal include steel, cement, fertilizers and textiles. The next we come to industrial machinery. Industrial machinery comes under the category of capital goods, which are essentially man-made assets used to produce goods and services. They include machinery and equipment as well as tools and buildings and vehicles. Capital goods imports in India have 3 major subsectors: industrial machinery, electrical machinery and equipment, and auto components. China is India's most dominant supplier of capital goods in all 3 subsectors. Its share in India's textile machinery imports stands at 43.4%. The last we come to organic compounds. India depends almost wholly on China for their organic supplies. Organic chemicals account for 12% of India's total imports from China. India's near total dependence on China for these bulk drugs has caused concern in the government and must be aware that there will be a power disruption which can lead to a serious shortage of medicine in the country. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Jennifer to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Raghav. In an increasingly technology-driven world, promoting industrialization is a multi-dimensional complex task, especially if you consider a nation of million-plus population. Me and my teammates have worked on researching why is India still a developing country if we talk about industrial sector, and we have come up with a few suggestions. So here are some of our suggestions for rapid industrial growth in India. First and foremost, modernization and technological upgradation. The usage of old machines leads to high cost of production, decline in productivity, and poor quality of goods. Also, we won't be able to provide a wide range of products, and this is further going to affect our consumer base, and hence our industries should focus on modernization. Second, favorable climate. Now, by favorable climate, I mean to talk about favorable investment climate. We are already aware that India has an attractive domestic market. So if we are able to create a favorable investment climate, then the companies will find it easy to invest and give a boost to our Indian economy. Third, we have optimum utilization of resources. India has sufficient natural resources, but it is due to their improper usage that industrial development has not been done up to the par. And thus, for industrial development, there should be a proper usage of natural resources. Fourth, we have development of research and technology. If we notice developed countries, we see that there is a continuous research done on industrial problems, production processes, etc. It is only through research on scientific and technical subjects that new avenues of development are explored. So, our government should work on developing research centers. Thus, fifthly, we have efficient system of industrial management. Our industries need educated and efficient workers, those who are loyal to the industries and give quick solutions to all the complex problems. Last but not the least, there should be effective financial management in order to make proper utilization of resources, upgradation of technology, and enhancing optimum scale of operation. When India won its independence, its industrial scenario was indeed grim. After more than 7 decades of independence, we have now shown signs of becoming a leading economic power. We have grown from being a primary producing country to one of the world's fastest developing countries. Independent India assigned a very crucial role to the industrial sector. Although the performance of the industrial sector has been underwhelming over the years, We hope that India, with its vast amount of resources, modern technology, and huge talent pool, will soon achieve its goal of becoming a developed country. Thank you.
Well, now after seeing these two presentations, we know that more than half of India's population is either engaged in agriculture or industries. But where does the remaining population of India gets their livelihood from?
Well, yes, nicely observed, Priya. Maybe they serve our country in forms of different jobs and occupations under the government or the private sector.
Well, now that we know that the other half of the population is engaged in services, so I would like the third team to come forward and give us a clear point of view regarding the service sector.
India is growing rapidly among other developing countries, but there is a difference between other countries than India. India has a massive population growth, which is a big hurdle towards progress. And yes, many other factors. India is still growing at 7% according to census. My name is Arun and I am here with my friends going to talk about one of the most important sector, which is also to be considered as a major sector in the development of our country. That's the service sector. So let's talk a bit about service sector. So what is service sector? The service sector produces intangible goods, more precisely services instead of goods. And it comprises various service industries, including warehousing, transportation, information technology, securities, investment, etc. Talking about the market size of service sector, the service sector is a key driver of India's economic growth. The sector contributed 55.39% to India's gross value added at current price in fiscal year 2020. Talking about the types of service sector, there are many types of service sector, but the major ones are trade, that is going to be explained by Jemima, telecommunication by Akshaya, information technology will be presented by me, tourism and hospitality by Veena, transportation by Nityashri, and accounting and finance by Janvi. So over to Jemima.
Thank you, Arun. Let's start with the introduction of trade. What is trade? Trade is nothing but buying and selling of goods in terms of profit is nothing but called as trade. We have two types of trade, internal trade and external trade. Internal trade, buying and selling of goods inside the boundaries of a nation is nothing but called as internal trade. External trade, buying and selling of goods takes place across national boundaries of different countries is nothing but called as external trade. Let's move the market size of a trade. Here we have a graph which represents from the year 2017 to 2022. If we observe it carefully, we can understand that the e-commerce sales as well as the growth both has been increased rapidly year by year. E-commerce platforms in India are Flipkart, Myntra, Snapdeal and many more. But in 2017, Amazon was only the online leading showroom in India. The market value in 2014 to 2027 was approximately 50 billion US dollars in 2018, but it's estimated to reach 800 billion US dollars by 2027. Let's move to the trade development. Amazon streaming services. In May 2021, it introduced a shopping app called MiniTV. It features web series, comedy shows, and content of tech news, tech food, tech beauty, and many more fashionable designs. Flipkart lottery infrastructure. Centralized lottery infrastructure for the customer safety and demands of them. Flipkart wholesale listed 2v2 marketplace of Flipkart in February 2021. It offered a group grocery on its app with the aim to provide kiranas and small retailers a one-shop access. CAIT, Confederation of All Indian Traders, which represents 80 million traders and 40,000 traders association, announced a launch of Bharat e-market. Let's move to the government initiatives. Government of India has announced various innovators namely like Digital India, Make India, Startup India, Skill India, and Innovation Fund, and many more. But let me list few and explain in detail. Government e-marketplace. In February 15, 2020, it listed 1,71,747 traders and service providers across 30,899 products and 176 services. The financial year of 2020 to 2021, government procurement was rupees 23,424 crores in US dollars 3.2 billion. DPIIT, Department of Promotion and Internet Trade of a better systematic onboarding process of retailers of e-commerce. NRP, National Retail Policy. The government has identified 5 areas for the purpose of National Retail Policy. Easy of doing business, rationalism of market, process and businessing of retail, and focus on reforms and many more. Let's go to the GDP shift. Here, if you see a graph which represents in the year 2018, but in 2017, Amazon was only the online leading showroom in India. But now, in 2018, Flipkart also strengthened its grocery infrastructure with the customer safety and demands of it. So, In the next upcoming years, by 2020 and 2030, all the other apps which are included in there will also strengthen its infrastructure by 2030, by 75% by 2030. Let's move to the next graph. The next graph represents from the year 2010 to 2020. If we see the graph 2010, it represents 4.4 billion US dollars. If we go over, the growth has been occurred by 2020 by US dollars 120 billion. And if you see by next 5 years, I mean by 2025, it is going to occur by 75% and increase of 75%, and by 2030, it is going to go to 200 billion US dollars. Let's move to future expectations and recommendations. The e-commerce industry has been directly impacting micro, small, and medium enterprises of India by providing means of financial technology and trading of travel gas. And US will be the second largest, and India will be the fifth largest in the e-market world of India by 2030. According to Bain & Company report, Indian social gross merchandise value stood at 2% by 2020, but now it is going to go to 70% by 2030, owning its high jump. So, e-retail market is expected to continue a strong growth of CAGR, compounded annual growth rate, by 35% to 1.8 trillion over next 5 years. Thank you. Over to Nitya.
Thank you, Jemima. Today, I would like to talk to you all about transportation. So let's get started with the introduction. As we all know, transportation is nothing but the movement of people or goods from one place to another. This movement of people or goods is over three main important domains of our earth, namely land, water, and air. Based on these three domains, transportation is of five types: railways, roadways, waterways, airways, and pipelines. Do you all know that India's road network is the second largest network in the world? Moving on to market size, transport industry in India is expected to grow at a CAGR, nothing but compounded annual growth rate of 20.20% in the next 5 years. Moving on to industry development, transport sector in India is expected to grow at a rate of 5.9% throughout 2021, thereby becoming one of the fastest growing area of the country's entire infrastructure sector. In road transport, the number of kilometers are increasing by 1.6% every year. Since independence, India has made great progress in shipping and gradually became the second largest shipping country in Asia and the sixth largest in the world. To keep up this momentum, government has come up with some initiatives. Now let us see what are the initiatives are. NUTP, nothing but National Urban Transport Policy, which was launched in 2006 and revised in 2014, aimed at providing better mobility and sustainability by focusing on people's mobility. The Sagarmala program. The prime objective of this program is to promote direct and also indirect development. The Bharatmala project. This project is under the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, which invested rupees 7 lakh crore in order to develop highways as well as road transport. Moving on to employment share, transport industry in India is one of the vast sectors and employs many people annually. On a rough estimate, we can say that over 20 million people are employed in transport industry every year, in which roadways employ 6 million people and railways employ 2.6 million people. GDP share. As I already said, transport sector is one of the vast sector and employs many people. It is also said as the foundation stone of economic infrastructure, as it helps in the development of trade, commerce, and also industry. Transport accounts a share of 6.4% in GDP of a country, in which road sector is majorly dominated. Moving on to expectations, the future of Indian transport industry will be carved by radical transformations, in which hydrogen power vehicles will be taking a lead. India also looks to make most of the use of solar energy for transport. Recommendations. There are many things in which government need to look at in order to develop transport industry. Public transport in India need to be improved. Old tracks and worn infrastructure in transport industry need immediate replacement. By developing transport industry, we can also contribute in developing of a nation. Thank you. Over to Aryan.
Thank you, Nitya. So let's talk about information technology. The information technology industry is an essential component of the technology-driven knowledge economy of the 21st century. The IT industry mainly encompasses IT services, IT-enabled services, e-commerce, and software and hardware products. So let's talk about industry development. Stage 1, prior to 1980, Indian IT sector was basically started with hardware products, and software industry did literally not exist in India until 1960. In the West, there was a greater demand for software development because the inbuilt software system was insufficient to perform all the operations accurately. Coming to stage 2, 1980 to 1990, during this stage, in spite of government initiatives, the software exports could not be reached at the expected level because of two reasons. First, the export of software was dependent on the imports of hardware and the procedural aspects were too complicated. Second, there were no proper infrastructure facilities for software development. So coming to stage 3, 1990 to 2000, this period has witnessed intensified competition in the IT sector. During this stage, there were some significant changes in the Indian economy, including trade liberalization, relaxation in the entry barriers, opening up of Indian economy for foreign investments, and devaluation of rupee. Coming to the last stage, stage 4 post 2000, the global problems like Y2K, the dot-com crash, and the recession in the US economy has forced many US firms to utilize the services of Indian firms. This has resulted in placing the Indian IT industry on the global map. Post 2002 2003, the industry had registered a robust growth rate. Coming to market size, the IT industry's revenue is estimated at $194 billion in fiscal year 2021, and an increase of 2.3% year over year. The domestic revenue of the IT industry is estimated at $45 billion, and export revenue is estimated at $150 billion in fiscal year 2021. IT spending in India is estimated to reach $93 billion in 2021 and further increase to $98.5 billion in 2022. So let's talk about employment share. The Indian information technology and business process management industry had over 4 million employed personnel during financial year 2020. Coming to government initiatives, in order to establish an enabling environment for the IT industry in April 2021, the development of advanced computing launched 3 innovative technologies: automatic parallelizing compiler, cybersecurity operations center, and CDAC's indigenous high-performance computing software solution, also known as parallel development environment, and development of telecom. Government of India and Ministry of Communication, Government of Japan signed a MOU to enhance cooperation in areas of 5G technologies, telecom security, and submarine optical fiber cable system. Talking about the GDP share, the information technology sector had contributed a share of just less than 8% to the GDP of the country in fiscal year 2020. Coming to future expectation, growing demand, expanding economy to propel growth in local demands, strong growth in demand for exports from new vehicles. Global footprint, Indian IT firms have delivery centers across the world and are well diversified across verticals such as BSFI, telecom, and retail. Talking about the recommendations, promoting new industries such as semiconductor manufacturing, electric vehicles, 3D printing, etc. will need to show some bias from government. Promoting studies, research, and discussion, which allows people to set up something to manufacture. Chinese started with toys, plates, cups, and utensils. That is the basics. The Indian government has adopted this method very late, and that too is very slow. Thank you, and over to Veena.
Thank you, Alan. ना पूछो जमाने को कि क्या मेरी कहानी है, हमारी पहचान तो बस इतनी है कि हम हिंदुस्तानी हैं. My friends already briefed you all so much in service sector. Come, let me take you to the most loving recreation of all time, tourism and hospitality. The Indian tourism sector is certainly the most apt replication of the belief Atithi Devo Bhava. Hospitality is the world's largest service industry. As per the Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Report, India is ranked 11th in the Asia Pacific region and 62nd overall. India bagged 37th rank for its air transport network. Always deliver more than expected. Let's see the strengths and opportunities in Indian tourism. India is best known for its culture and diversity. And yes, it's one of the strengths. The government has proposed a budget of Rs 540 crore for the development of the industry. The priority is being given to the development of the infrastructure. With the open sky policy, the tourism industry has seen an increase in business. Owing to the rise in income levels, Indians have more spare money to spend, which will enhance leisure tourism. Let's have a glimpse on the government initiatives to improve the tourism sector. The government has given 100% foreign direct investment in tourism industry, which will help in expansion of the tourism sector. Due to tourist visa on arrival scheme, the country will attract more tourists and eventually increase the revenue. The slide depicts the growth in tourism industry and how tourism grew since 2010 till now. The most attractive place in Indian tourism is Tamil Nadu, followed by Uttar Pradesh and Karnataka. And now recently, we all know Ramappa Temple inscribed on UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now let's see why India is underdeveloped in tourism despite of so many initiatives by the government. The reasons identified are the poor support infrastructure. As you can see, the left-hand side is Indian support infrastructure and on the right, it's the infrastructure of the world. Bumpy roads, poor electricity wiring, and not so attractive buildings are the main causes of less attraction, despite the country having many attractive places to visit. The other reasons identified could be slow implementation of policies and lack of overseas promotion. Now let's see how we can make our incredible India more of eye candy in the eyes of international tourism. Traveling is an experience rather than just visiting attractions. In order to promote the tourism, we need to invest time and efforts in building traveling experiences for people, bring with tour guides, activities for the children, interactivity for the tourists with the place of culture, etc. Most of our attractions are left to themselves and are not built up as experiences and memories to take back home. Basic amenities such as restrooms near attractions, changing rooms at the beaches, and garbage bins are what we lack presently. Further, even if some of our attractions might have those, they're left in horrible conditions enough to leave visitors puking. We need to learn a lot from the West in this case. Any other nation in this world can hardly match up the number of historical monuments that dot the landscape of India, but they can't match up the kind of creativity and inscriptions that go into ruining those monuments. We seriously need to put creative measures against anybody who does this. A friendly smile on the face of the host at times gives the best whiff to tourism, and this is one thing that we can implement. Security concerns also go alongside. A country that serves well looks well. India has yet to cover miles when it comes to offering secure adventure facilities to travelers. This is an essential infrastructure that we need to upgrade from its present sorry state. One of the incredible India quote states, it's built like a Bollywood dream sequence, only you're in it. Since most of the nations knows to Bollywood, it's a great idea to use it as a beacon of our tourism. So these are the major reasons why India is still a developing nation. Thank you. Over to Akshaya.
Thank you, Veena. Come, let me introduce my topic, that is telecommunication. At present, India is world's second largest country in the telecommunication market with a subscriber base of 1.16 billion and has registered a strong growth in the last decade and top 5 employment opportunity country. Government has enabled easy market access to telecommunication equipment and a fair and proactive regulatory framework. Now, as we move into the market size, gross revenue of the telecom sector stood at 66,228 crores in the third quarter of fiscal year 2021. The total subscriber base in the country stood at 1,187.9 million in February 2021. Over the next 5 years, a rise in mobile phone penetration and decline in data cost will add 500 million new internet users in India. Now, let us move into the major development in the telecommunication sector. FDI inflow into telecom sector during April 2000 to December 2020 total 120 billion according to the data released by DPIIT. In April 2021, Elon Musk SpaceX has started accepting pre-orders for the beta version of its Starlink satellite internet service in India. ATSC and TSDSI signed a deal to boost adoption in India in order to make broadcast services available in India. Now let us move to the government initiatives. Production and incentive scheme include inviting applications for auction of spectrum. On Jan 6, 2021, the Department of Telecommunications (DOT) issued notice inviting applications NIA for auction of spectrum. Project to connect all villages. On September 2021, the Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi launched a project to connect all 45,945 villages in Bihar with optical fiber internet service. Now let us move into the employment share. Employment is closely related to the investments in sector, but there are numerous other factors that have direct and indirect effect on employment. This sector contributes directly to 2.2 million employment and indirectly to 1.8 million jobs. Now let us move to the GDP share. The telecom industry's contribution to GDP is estimated to reach 8.2% by 2020, by when industry players are slated to also leverage 5G technologies to connect with global markets. Now let us see the future expectations and recommendations. Expectations. As we are moving towards digitization and digitalization with the help of future generation, and all of this can happen only by fast-speed networking. RPA means robotic process automation technology will enable telecom industry to manage rule-based back office and large repetitive volumes more easily. Security. The world is moving fast. Advanced technology is making life easier, but at the same time, it gives easy options to the hackers to hack and steal the data. So people will expect more security. Recommendations. Index compilation methods. There are two major methods in this. Tariff method. This method is rated as B method in the stable market. Unit value approach method. This assumes that the content of tariff method based servers is well defined. Now let us see how can India become a developed country with the usage of telecommunication. Major sectors of Indian telecommunication industry are telephone, internet, and broadcast industry in the country, which is an ongoing process of transforming into next generation network. The access network which connects the subscriber to the core is highly diversified with different copper paid, optic fiber, and wireless technologies. DTH, a relatively new broadcasting technology, has attained significant popularity in the television segment. Thank you, and over to Janvi.
Thank you, Akshay. Now let us all discuss about accounting and finance. Before going into the topic, first let me introduce you about financial sector. India has a diversified financial sector, and this sector comprises commercial banks, insurance companies, pension funds, and many other financial entities. As we all know, service sector is a key driver of India's economic growth. The sector contributed 55.39% of India's GDP. Now let us all go to developments. In November 2020, LIC took initiatives to facilitate quicker proposal completion by launching a digital application named Ananda, and Paytm reported 2 times faster growth in its digital gold transactions. And also the banking system in India is the most extensive. Latest inclusions such as internet banking and core banking have made banking operations more user-friendly and also easy. Now, to develop our financial sector this much, our government should invest something on financial sector. So now, let's see few government initiatives. It allocated rupees 6,000 crore for BharatNet program. And also it has launched the National Broadband Mission with the aim to provide broadband access to all the villages by 2020. Now let's see GDP shares. In total, 55.39% of GDP, 22.05% is contributed by financial sector. When compared to any other services, financial service sector is contributing more GDP. If our technology develops, then in future, our financial sector will typify the progress of its economy. As the Indian market may choose Australian business to like to partner with our Indian financial sector. So to see our future like this, our government should follow still more steps. Now, I would like to mainly focus on 3 areas where World Bank believes India can make meaningful progress. First one is adding private capital in the banking system. And the second is deepening capital markets. And the third is strengthening non-banking financial companies. So following these recommendations will help our government to make our financial sector as strong and also stable. So let us all aim to be creative and create new thoughts and new technologies which helps our financial sector to develop as an emerging sector. Thank you. Over to Aryan.
So let's finally talk about what are the current problems in service sector. Domestic laws and service sector restrictiveness, backlog effect from demonetization GST, FDI relaxation and disinvestment, and market access barriers. Now you will ask how these things can be fixed. According to me, a well thought out of attention to financial support, benefits directed specifically to this segment is the need of the hour. And now I would like to pen down a quote given by a very wise man. India is not as people keep calling it an underdeveloped country, but rather in the context of its history and cultural heritage, a highly developed one in an advanced state of decay. Thank you. Jai Hind. Over to Mane and Priya.
Well, Priya, I find these online classes very boring nowadays.
Why do you find it boring?
Well, we don't get any fun classes while schooling.
Why do you need fun classes to make school interesting? Well, you can have fun with the normal classes you attend. And it gives us so much knowledge, which is not only help us with our future, but will also affect the development of our country.
Well, yeah, I understand. But what about people who don't have privileges like us to go to school? What do they do? Like, do they also contribute like the educated ones?
Of course they do. You know, last year I visited Kerala and there were so many people. They were making pots from their hands and they were making it from mud and clay. People like them don't have the privilege to be educated like us, but they still contribute to the nation by their abilities and skills.
Well, so this means that not only education, but skills and abilities are also important and they lie under the resources.
Yes, correct. So now let's have a quick glance on how the resource sector affects the development of our country.
Good morning to everyone. First of all, I wish a very happy Independence Day to each and everyone. Time is a finite resource that we can't get it back. Resource utilization is being vast, and myself, Nadia, along with my team, is going to take this presentation ahead. And we are going to deal with the importance and resource utilization, and at the same time, we are going to deal with employment and unemployment before and after the independence. And let me start the presentation, and I welcome you all. Let us have a glance at the index, and these are the topics we are going to cover in our presentation. Have you ever thought what it takes for us to live? Of course, resources to make our life comfortable. But what does the term resource actually mean? Everything available from our environment which is used to satisfy our needs. That is, technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable. Let us know about these three factors in brief. First of all, technologically accessible. Now, we know that humans are heavily relied on resources. It could be both for building infrastructure, feeding the population. Now, we need to understand that there is a cost associated with everything. If a particular resource cannot be extractable as well as reusable, because reusable is a good sign, it will heavily reduce the cost. So for that, we need to have a good technology. And that is what technologically accessible means. Coming to economically feasible, if a particular resource cannot be allocated efficiently amongst the people, citizens, and the population, then it will be very difficult for the market to distribute because all the market forces will act on it like increase in price, decrease in demand, and that can actually make a market unstable. And that is the meaning of economically feasible. Coming to culturally acceptable, by the name itself gives its meaning. It means to resonate with community. For example, a seeing market will have multiple variety of single product. Do you know why is it so? Because everyone can resonate and accept it according to their own benefit. For suppose, if a particular person doesn't like something, some product, he also has an alternative for that. So these kind of elements are important when it comes to resources. Now further information about resource management will be continued by my friend Ramya.
Yeah, thank you, Nadia. Good morning to all. First of all, happy Independence Day to all of you. Now, coming to the topic types of resources. Now, let's talk about natural resources. Natural resources are resources that exist without any actions of humankind. And this includes the sources of valued characteristics such as commercial and industrial use, scientific interest, and cultural value. On Earth, it includes sunlight, atmosphere, water, land, all minerals, along with all vegetation and animal life. Natural resources can be a part of our natural heritage or protected in nature reserves. Natural resources may be classified in different ways. Natural resources are materials and components that can be found within the environment. Every man-made product is composed of natural resources at its fundamental level. A natural resource may exist as a separate entity, such as fresh water, air, as well as any living organism. And some examples of natural resources are coal, oil, natural gas, metal, stone, sand, sunlight, and water. Now coming to importance of natural resources. As we know that we are in pandemic situation, the resource extraction, production, demand fallen down, making us to think and realize the importance of resources. Now let's talk about human resources. Human resources is a set of people who make up the workforce of an organization, business sector, industry, or economy. The human resources department of an organization performs human resource management, overseeing various aspects of employment, such as compliance with labor law and employment standards, interviewing administration of employee benefits, and organizing of employee files with the required documents for future reference, and some aspects of recruitment and employee offboarding. They serve as the link between an organization's management and its employees. Human resources management system or human capital management is a form of human resources software that combines a number of systems and processes to ensure the easy management of human resources and business process of data. Human resources software is used by businesses to combine a number of necessary HR functions such as storing employee data, managing payroll, time and attendance, employee performance management, and training records. Now coming to what is resource utilization. Resource utilization is a term used to describe the percentage of an employee's available time that is used for billable tasks. Resource utilization rates show how much of your team's time is being spent on billable tasks as well as how productive each team member is. Resource utilization ultimately helps you make the most of your available resources. Proper utilization of resources is important for maintaining productivity because it prevents staff from underperforming or being overburdened by workloads and burning out. Resource utilization is a KPI that measures how effectively each resource is utilized against his or her availability or capacity. Using this metric, managers can evaluate and continuously monitor employees' work rates and analyze if they are overworked or underworked. Now, Soumya is going to take this presentation. Yeah, thank you, Ramya. First of all, I wish you a very happy Independence Day to all. So let me continue the topic. How is resource utilization before independence? The British rule in India is remembered for its distinctive role and it lasted for about 200 years and was characterized by an organized exploitation of India's natural resources and wealth. The term drain of wealth was first used by Dadabhai Naroji. The trade policies adopted by the colonial government were mainly designed to promote its own economic interests and to exploit India's natural resources. The colonial government promoted free export of India's raw materials and duty-free import of British machine-made goods into India. This resulted in the generation of huge export surplus, but it did not add anything to the wealth of the country in the form of silver and gold. The net result of the policies during the British administration was large-scale open utilization of natural resources, and Indian resources were Indian resources were nourished to use it to nourish the British country. Now, going to the topic, how is resource utilization today? We know that India is today's second most populated country in the world. So, to fulfill that needs and dreams of a nation, resource utilization had increased with growing population. The exploitation of resources had increased phenomenally between the years 1900 to 2000. The demand increased from 1.8 billion tons to 7.8 billion tons. The compound annual rate growth of domestic material consumption had almost doubled between these years. And India emerged world's second largest consumer of materials too. India's resources extraction per unit area is one of the highest in the world compared to global average of 1,579 tons. India average material cost in total production cost is over 70%, while in developing countries is 40 to 50% only. Moving on to the topic, how is resource utilization at this pandemic situation? The COVID-19 pandemic has disturbed the lowly resourced and largely unregulated health systems in India. Especially in this COVID time, we have used many resources to protect ourselves from this pandemic. Suppose if we take water, washing hands every time is one of the main and essential steps that can be taken to avoid the spread of disease. And other sources like minerals, fuels, electricity are also useful. Sources of powers including electricity are used for water supply and other conditions that makes homes inhabitable as well as to keep hospitals operational. And minerals helpful to boost immunity and to maintain healthy body. Especially zinc is a very essential and main mineral that fight harmful bacteria and viral infections. In this way, the resource utilized in this COVID time. We explored the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on health work in India and extrapolated to draw critical components that should be addressed in HRH policy. Now, I would like to invite Nadia to take this presentation.
Thank you, Soumya. Now let us discuss about how are resources important for a nation. Resources are important for a nation. Resources, both renewable, non-renewable, and ecosystem services, are a part of real wealth of a nation. They are the natural capital out of which other forms of capital are made, and they form the backbone economy of social development in a nation. Now, coming to the next slide, let us talk about the problems of resource development. First of all, depletion of resources. Non-renewable resources are getting depleted at a faster pace. Coming to the second one, that is accumulation of resources. It is in few hands in which divided the society into segments like haves and have not. That is rich and poor. For example, in India, how the Reliance industry controls the electricity as well as oil. Similarly, we have few other competitors and Tata Steel industry who control the ideal part of it. So if too many resources are accumulated, it creates a problem for development. We need to have a kind of defined boundaries for developmental process. Coming to the third one, that is indiscriminate exploitation of resources. They are used at a higher instant than they have to be. And Gandhiji said that there is enough for everybody's need and nothing for anybody's greed. And yes, now let's talk about the conservation of resources. Conservation of resources means judicious and well-planned use as well as reuse by avoiding wastage, misuse, and overuse. In 1968, Club of Rome has established and worked around resource conservation. Later on in 1974, Schumacher had written a book, Small is Beautiful. And finally, in 1987, under Brundtland Commission report, they gave sustainable development as a common future. These are some important things done for resource conservation. Let us have an example for clear understanding about the resource conservation. Now we are comparing how diverse use of resources is. We have taken Norway and Nigeria. Both the countries have extensive forests in the prehistoric times, but the fractions of these forests remains today are far different. In Norway, over 90% country's original forest remains today, while the figure for Nigeria is less than 11%. And the resources are used in different ways in two nations. In Norway, over 95% is used for commercial and only 5% for fuel. And coming to Nigeria, the shares are roughly reversed. 8% for commercial and 92% for fuel. So from this example, we can understand that Norway is having a proper planning about the resource conservation from its past to future. So that is why resource conservation is important for a developing country like our India. But India, the conservation rate is very low when compared to other countries. So let us see how to develop resource planning in India. Resource planning is essential to bring about sustainable existence. It refers to a development of resources which does not cause any harm to the environment, and also such development should not compromise with the future generations. Coming back to India, when we look into the historical background, we will see that there were colonial exploitation in the resource-rich regions, and as a result, there were plantation and agriculture started. And identification and inventory of resources involves surveying, mapping, qualitative and quantitative estimation, and the measures of resource extraction. And the most important thing is matching the resource with development. If there is a definite development, there should be a certain set of resources available. Now let's talk about the remedial measures. So the first is, if we are overusing the resources, we have to take this overuse on a kind of equal distribution so that we will have equitable distribution and then we will have sustainable development. Sustainable development means that using a given set of resources in such a manner that it is still available for future. And under the Rio Summit 1992, there was an Agenda 21 that was asked and talked about combat environmental damage, global pollution, poverty, and diseases. So with growing consciousness on environment conservation, the efficient use of resources become important for a developing country like our India. Now let's talk about economic growth. Economic growth is an increase in production of goods and services compared from one period of time to another period of time. It is measured in GDP or GNP. The economy of India is characterized as the middle income developing marked economy, and it is the sixth largest economy and third largest power parity. According to International Monetary, on per capita income basis, India ranked 122nd rank by GDP. Now, I would like to invite Muskan to continue this presentation discussing about employment and unemployment.
Good morning to all the dignitaries in this virtual platform. I'm Muskan from Kottapeta branch Guntur, going to take a presentation with employment and unemployment topic. And here, before I start this presentation, I would like to pose a question. Are we really paid before independence for our hard work? So I'll definitely find the answer in further slides. Let's discuss more about our topic. And I would like to start this presentation with the word employment. What actually employment means? Employment is nothing but a state of having paid work. And employment is generated based on your degree, experience, course, and talent. Moving on to the word unemployment. Unemployment is nothing but a person who is actively seeking for the job but can't able to find the job. And going brief in the topic, you'll come to know how employment was generated in India before independence. As we know, Surat is the richest place in medieval period. We have much more collection of gold, silver and diamonds which were very famous. After the arrival of Dutch, Portuguese and Britishers, they started transferring our wealth to their countries. With the help of railways for transportation, they had reduced the economy of India. In order to standardize the economy of India, they introduced the word employment and started providing employment opportunities to the people. Now let us see employment opportunities in pre and post-independence. In pre-independence, as we know, Britishers' policy was to turn India into an exporter of raw materials and consumer of finished goods. So, to increase the wealth of their country, they started railways. And in order to fulfill their labors, they started providing employment opportunities in railways and exports, which became easy for the movement of finished goods. Do you know after independence what was the scenario? After independence, many sectors came in India, like IT sector, information technology, in which Infosys is the topmost information technology and consulting company. After independence, IT and IT sector came in a long way to become one of the pillars of modern India. And this sector has provided 4 million jobs and generated employment for 10 million people. Moving on to food processing industries. Food processing industries are very great in export and employment potential. The Ministry of Food Processing Industries had started enhancing employment opportunities. And moving on to transportation. Infrastructure and investment are prescribed to stimulate Indian economy by creating employment. And while transportation, investment can create jobs. Hotel. Finding hotel investment increase in employment in both the overall economy and the tourism. We all have a question in our mind. Why a lot of people are unemployed even after they are graduated? Are colleges providing theoretical and practical knowledge equally? Yes, as they are having less attention towards practical knowledge. So if we change the quality of education, it results in increase of more employment opportunities. And as we know, India is the second most populated country. So when a country is overpopulated, it gives rise to unemployment. And industrial development. Industrial development is very important aspect of any economy as it generates employment. But we can see industrial growth is very slow. And do you know why many people can't find secure jobs? This is due to a lack of skill awareness. Skill awareness is a requirement of any company and it is a hiring tool for any job. Now let us see primitive technology. The technology has always fueled economic growth and standards of living. And this primitive technology has continually led by creation of new jobs. And as we all have faced a lot of struggles in this pandemic situation, so I wanted to particularly cover the topic unemployment in COVID-19. As we can see, downfall of not only big workers, gig workers who are temporary workers like Swiggy and Zomato. And this gig economy was widely seen as a large-scale hiring tool. And moving on to, lot of companies in private sectors had stopped the production due to the maintenance of the company. And we can also observe downfall of MSME, micro small media enterprises. And as per a government report, an Indian automotive industry suffered 2,300 crore loss per day. And an estimated jobless was about 3.45 lakhs. And thought this as a direct result of this pandemic situation. Now let us have a glance at the unemployment rate in lockdown. Unemployment was well maintained before pandemic, as it is 3.4% in 2017. But in this pandemic situation, unemployment became a very big problem. So it came to 23.5% in 2020. After we started recovering the problem, it resulted in decrease of unemployment rate for 11.9%. And for new employment opportunities, government had started schemes like Atmanirbhar Bharat, which means self-reliant, and Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, and the act called Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. This scheme provides legal guarantee of 100 days of employment in a financial year. And by doubling farmers' income, their target was to grow farm at 10.4% of constant basis prices. Moving on to way forwards, I suggest stop neglecting agriculture, service and industrial sector, as they are having more employment opportunities which can improve our economy and develop our country. And as we know, we are weak in industrial sector. We can come up with new ideas like quantifying, standardizing and organizing, which can make industrial sector strong and improve our economy. And the main drawback of development plans is lack of awareness. Creating awareness among the people leads to very great result. And as we know, after 74 years of independence, India is still a developing country. Many people know and have an idea that India is still a developing country, but people do not focus at the things which should be implemented and managed. As an Indian citizen, I can see miles to develop our country. And I would like to conclude this topic with a success formula. We can develop our country by equalizing all the sectors. As we can see, China is also a developing country with huge population. This is because they are maintaining all the sectors. But we are facing a problem with industrial sector for manufacturing. So this is why India is still a developing country. And thank you from resource management team, and thank you for being patient listeners. Over to Manya.
Well, those were some awesome and informative PPTs. I would like to thank them for putting so much of effort and helping us understand better about our country.
Yes, Manna, these presentations were really helpful. And we should also understand that every individual in our country matters.
Well, yes, it's not only necessary for the government, to take measures for the development of our country, but we, as an individual, are also responsible for the development of our nation.
Even small and simple steps matters and can add up to make huge differences within a country.
Absolutely correct. Even the government, they are trying and taking so much measures and step for the development. And we should also try to support our government and help India be a better place to live in. Even according to the recent reports, India, it is the fastest developing nation in the whole wide world. And it has also proved it in the past few years. Now, hopefully, within a few years, our country will also be recognized as a developed nation. And even expectantly, not long after several years, my locality and streets will also look better than those in America and other developed nations.
Yes, and lastly, we would like to thank the Narayana Group to provide us a platform for giving us an opportunity to share such valuable and important message with all of you. Thank you to all the teachers and our mentors who guided and supported us throughout. And lastly, to all those who have spent their valuable time for attending this program. Thank you for everyone. Jai Hind.
That was great, team, and a wonderful teamwork I can see over here. And one good thing that Manya has concluded with and made us understand that yes, it is not only the government who have to work upon it. It is every individual's responsibility to see a better India, a developed India. Now, I would like to call upon Sudha ma'am to share her valuable feedbacks and suggestions that overall presentation, any views that how could we lead to the developed India tomorrow. Sudha ma'am, over to you, please.
Yes, thank you, Shafi sir. And very well done, my dear students. Actually, you have touched each and every area where it is necessary. Agriculture, industry, services, human resources, everything. But the question comes into our mind is that we have touched why we are calling our country as a developing nation, why not a developed nation? I mean, after this long process of 75 years, you did the presentation very well. That means what are the reasons where we have lagged behind, and how we are covering in the course of our progress. Means what are the different steps, what are the different government schemes, and what is the role of the citizens. Everything was very well presented by all the students. So the need of the day is this only. That is the need of the day is to make ourselves responsible enough to participate in the growth story of India. Means, for example, we are talking about the resource management. When we are talking about the resource management, usually what comes into our mind is regarding the skill development. Regarding the skill development, when an opportunity is there for us to improve our skills, there are certain categories of the students where they are not having these opportunities. So how better we can provide these skills to these particular sector. One more thing that comes into our mind is are these resources which were developed in our country, are they really contributing to the country, or brain drain is there? Or brain drain is there? This is also one of the important area that that has been focused by all of you, because you're very much concerned about the nation and the participation of the nation citizens, and really wonderful work. One more thing I wanted to point out is that I wanted to share with you, all of you, is because see, all the presentations, what I am able to see is your love and adore for the country and the nationalistic spirit with which you speak, with which you spoke about the country's progress. Agriculture or industry or the technology or the resources, whatever it may be, you have taken up the reasons, and you have shown your love and affection towards your nation, that what are the steps that they have taken. Really wonderful thing, my dear students. Wonderful presentation. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Sudha ma'am. Now I would like to take an honor to call upon Padma ma'am to share her views and let us know the actions to be taken for a better India. Padma ma'am.
Yes. Very good morning to all the dignitaries who are present here. I'm privileged to be as a part of Narayana Group of schools, really. And I wish all the students a great success for the future. And here, the thing what we have discussed about the three sectors, and including the human resources, how they are helpful and how they are useful for the present and the future generations also. And even they have categorized and they have given a clear picture, and they have given enough knowledge to the viewers. Like this is a great initiative which was taken by our soft skills department, and even really I thank everyone for this, like everyone, the mentors who all are taken the pain to be as a successful part today on this auspicious day. I would like to wish you all a happy 75th Independence Day. And here, as we all know that about the students, like today's child is tomorrow's citizens. As once again, Narayana Group of school students, they have proved that not only in the present, like in the future generations also, as we would make our students like intellectually, and even we could see more and more the participants like in the future development of a nation, of our country especially. When we speak about the development of a nation, India, like past decades, India was underdeveloped nation. We used to call it as a low-income country. But now at present, as we all acknowledge that India is a developing nation. So the presentations which were presented by our students were really awesome, and they have comparison and the measures and whatever the limitations and everything they have given excellent presentation, and the present which is connected and the connectivity which they have given for the future generations also. That was really awesome, students, and I'm very happy. But everybody they have proved by giving this all the information. Why? Because very few they have an idea how they say that India is still a developing nation, but what could be the reasons for that? What were the reasons for that? So as we have proved, as it is a task being a citizen of India, as we have given more and more knowledge to the viewers, and especially like I would like to thank a parent who all supported us, bringing and making it as a grand success, really. And once again, I would like to wish all the participants, including the anchors, really your skills and the presentation, the expressions, like really these all the things were heart touching students. Once again, I wish you good luck for the future. Thank you all. Thank you for giving me a great opportunity to be a part of this program today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Padma ma'am, Sudha ma'am, for actually holding the hands of the students and guiding them throughout this research program. And that's something great, and we really appreciate your dedication and efforts towards supporting the students. Now moving forward, let me take an honor to call upon Veda ma'am to share the future of India after the presentation. Veda ma'am, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Shafi. I think students have really done an amazing job. And I'm so proud to say that, my nation is in the safe hands. And students, what I have understood is that, a typical problem solving and it's been done here. A SWOT analysis was done where you have identified what is the strength of our nation and what are the areas that, we would call it as a weaker areas that we have identified, and what are the opportunities that we have for our future, and what are the threats that we need to work upon. I think it's with a complete SWOT analysis is what I could understand that students have done today. Amazing job, students. And yes, I conclude by saying it, our nation is definitely in safe hands and our future looks very, very bright. And I wish you all a happy, once again, Independence Day. And it's true, very true that our nation has got its true independence and it is in safe hands. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Veda ma'am, for sharing your valuable thoughts and ideas and suggestions with the students. So before we close this program, we all have understood today, and all the viewers watching us live, we all have actually realized and understood the various sectors. Where are they standing? What are they doing? And now it is really very, very important to understand our part. What is our part to be, what is our responsibility as an Indian citizen? And it is not only one, it is every individual one who has to take care for the development of India. I know the part of the government is always there, but the part of every individual can never be forgotten. So this presentation would made us realize, understand, and I hope we are going to pause, think about the next coming years of India, and we are going to see a developed India, then a developing India. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being a great support. I would especially like to thank all the people from the central office team, especially Sudha ma'am, Padma ma'am, for guiding the students in the research work that they have done, because this process was a long process and it really need a lot of guidance which were being taken up from every individual. I really thank all of every individual to guide the students. Thank you so much, Sudha ma'am, Padma ma'am, for guiding the students in the entire research work. I would like to thank entire Narayana Group of schools. Special thanks to all the coordinators, principals who have been supporting you all from all the way. I would also like to extend my thank to all the trainers, entire team of soft skills department, who have actually worked hard together. And we all believe that whenever we do in a team, whenever we do something in a team, we always achieve more. And what is the more? More doesn't have a limit. And today you can see the endless presentation with a lot of information, a lot of research work, data, analysis, and everybody is still now watching and thinking that what is tomorrow, right? So that's where our 10th graders of Narayana Group of Schools stand. Thank you so much, everyone. Before closing up today's program, I request everyone to please stand up for the national anthem, because today is auspicious day and it can never be ended without a national anthem.
Shafi sir, one moment.
Sudha ma'am.
Just one moment. One moment. Actually, the students have proved that India is a developed nation. by showing the clear-cut data. It's not a developing nation, it is developed because from the status of that is a very primitive mode of agriculture or industry or services or resources, we have marched on to the progress. The clear-cut graph shows that India is a developed nation. So being the developed nation citizens, children, please make the nation to move forward. And thank you, Shafi sir.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Truly said. Now we will close this program with a national anthem. And yes, special thanks to all the students who have dedicatedly, worked day and night. It took really, 20 to 25 days for all the students to get this information and, choose the best one, do the research work, taking the support of entire central office R&D team, and also all the trainers. And thank you so much, everyone. Let's move ahead and close this program with a national anthem. I request everyone to please take an honor and stand. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day. Once again, happy Independence Day to everyone. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Take care. We can end the meeting, Gaurang sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.